Hi, I'm Stephanie Mellman. I'm a principal at MediaLink, and I'm very excited to be here today with Eric Danetz. First of all, congratulations on your new role, the first ever president of Cognitiv. Very exciting. Of course, very excited to be here. I know you've had a very diverse and robust career with leadership positions in media and data and other parts of the industry. What made you decide to come to Cognitiv?
Good question. So the founder or co-founder of Cognitiv was a former colleague of mine, Jeremy Fain. And we worked together about 15 years ago now at CBS Interactive. So I've kept track of Cognitiv over the years, and Jeremy and I get together for lunch and talk about the business. And through that time, like you mentioned, I've had a lot of different roles in a lot of different places. And I've always really been interested in what Cognitiv is doing. And what has happened with Cognitiv over the past few years specifically has been remarkable. And so for me to be able to come to an organization like this and be a part of the growth story that is Cognitiv today is something I couldn't say no to.
Absolutely. So I think it's week 3 or 4. What have you learned about Cognitiv that has surprised you the most that you didn't learn from the outside?
Yeah, it's a good question. The first and foremost is the talent here. And that's truly the remarkable part. As I mentioned, I had known Jeremy, but I didn't know Aaron and Mark, the co-founders. And I certainly didn't know the rest of the team here. And so I've had an opportunity to get to know the people here, the business itself. Clearly, there's more work to do there after only a few weeks, but the talent here is remarkable. You take that and then look at the products that they've built and the platform itself, which is also remarkable. The combination of the two has truly surprised me. When you come into an organization, and I've had a lot of different roles over the almost 30 years I've been doing this. I hate to say 30 years, but it's true. You see really early on in terms of the challenges and opportunities, and the opportunities way outweigh the challenges.
To that point, what do you think the industry at large doesn't know about Cognitiv that you want to focus on?
Quite a bit. So AI in general is a term that many people use. And even when I'm walking in, even in these first few weeks, walking into clients and prospects having conversation, people actually are pushing off the term AI because it's being used in such a broad context. Deep learning is a format within AI. It's a format actually within machine learning. And people need to understand, which they don't necessarily, the difference there, because it's a form of neural networking. And neural networking is basically mimicking the way the brain works. And that's a very interesting proposition when it comes to the application of the products and services that Cognitiv brings to the forefront in our industry. And it's truly a next generation way of going to market. And most of the folks that I've spoken to don't necessarily have an understanding of that application yet.
Right. To your point about, AI is such a hot topic right now. You hear it on every stage, every trade article. What is unique about Cognitiv's approach to AI?
Yeah, so I look at it in terms of the outcome. So first and foremost, AI can be a feature. It can be something that a company is leveraging in order to enhance a feature or enhance an outcome. At Cognitiv, truly, I look at the user journey, right? From the beginning, when you have an individual like us going to look for information, whether it's a website, CTV, a cross-platform, mobile device, what is it you're trying to do there, and what is that experience? The advertising that's on those platforms is a part of that experience. And me as an end user, I'd like to have a message in context with the right sentiment at the right time, because my reaction to that is going to be differentiated as opposed to a lot of advertising now that is placed without intelligence. And so those outcomes are very different. And so when you look at, again, the platform and the technology and the potential outcomes that come, not only for an end user, but the publisher themselves in terms of what they're able to leverage in context with all that content that's created, it's pretty remarkable what's possible. And we can bring that to the forefront now.
Cognitiv brands itself as a deep learning advertising platform, or as you guys like to call it, DLAP, which I love. Why is a platform approach the right thing for brands right now and in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Cognitiv is coming up on its 10th year. And so there's a lot of history in terms of working in the AI space, whereas many of the AI companies have not been in the ecosystem for that long. And so the solutions that have been created, multiple solutions, have evolved. And so it allows us to be very dynamic in how we approach our clients, our prospects in the marketplace. And that is more of a platform approach. In doing that, also, it allows us to scale outcomes, which is critically important. This next generation of the way that we are approaching the market and the technology that we're leveraging, the neural networking side of what we're doing, allows us to react in real time. And when we can do that, we can assess different audience segments and scale those segments based on behaviors that are happening at the impression level as opposed to the domain level. And so that allows us to be a platform that is dynamic as opposed to static or feature oriented. And that's a huge differentiator, which you asked me earlier. A lot of our clients and prospects don't realize that differentiation. So I look forward to bringing that into the market, and our teams do as well, because it matters in terms of outcomes.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned next generation. When it comes to next generation, especially as something as complex as deep learning, it can be hard for the industry to grasp. How did you see the potential in Cognitiv, especially as somebody that is not a technologist by trade?
Good question. Also, I think the bottom line is breaking down when I'm talking to somebody about what we do in the context for how they're going to use that platform. And so I talk about the user journey quite often, because I think when you put in context how somebody is interacting with a product, service, platform, it allows them to visualize as opposed to using, as we just have, a number of acronyms or a number of deep technology words that they may not understand and they're not necessarily comfortable with. So when you break down the user journey and how people are interacting with our product services and what it means to outcomes, it allows for differentiation. It becomes much more clear to individuals, given their context and the need that they have for their outcomes. And so I'm a big believer in breaking it down that way and having what I call a level conversation.
That makes sense.
Sure.
From the lens of your diverse 30-year career and industry experience, how can brands make the most of Cognitiv's deep learning at the platform?
I think it's sitting down with us and having a conversation about what their KPIs are. The difference here, too, is this is a bespoke algorithmic opportunity where we can go in and tailor very specifically algorithms that will learn based on those KPIs. KPIs change, by the way. So as a client, again, given my history, you go in and there's an objective. That objective can change based on the creative, based on the context of which that creative is placed, and a lot of different variables. We have the ability to leverage that dynamic change in real time. And so that brings a tremendous amount of value, again, to a brand, to an end user who's on that page, who's satiating themselves with that information, and a publisher, right? In terms of how they monetize, how they interact with an end user, how they create a more immersive experience. So this is not only about monetization, the way I view it. It's about the entire experience when you're essentially looking for solutions.
What verticals and brands are you working with? Are there specific verticals you specialize in, or do you work with everybody?
Well, we work across the board. So, some of our larger verticals, financial services, insurance, automotive, without a doubt. But we're also working in the pharmaceutical vertical. And candidly, you can apply deep learning across any vertical. At the end of the day, the more data that you input into a model, the better the output. But we're at a point in time where we want to work with different brands. We want to test with different brands. And we want to see, and we have seen, what the outcomes can be. And given the opportunity to work with Cognitiv, either on a small scale or clearly on a larger scale, which we're seeing now with many brands, it's great for us and it's great for those brands to see what's possible given the use of deep learning.
Absolutely.
And the difference it actually has.
Now, do you only work with brands? Do you also work with agencies? Are you flexible in how you work with everyone?
So we have relationships with all the agency holding companies, smaller agencies as well, and we certainly work brand direct. So we're agnostic in terms of who we work with. Obviously, when it comes to an opportunity to sit down and explain the dynamics of what we do and the outcomes that we can bring to a brand, we're open to having that with anyone.
So to wrap things up, you have a lot on your plate as Cognitiv's first president.
Yep.
What are your priorities for the next few months to drive near-term growth?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue to dig in. First and foremost is getting to know the talent here. And so as we discussed before our conversation, I'll be in Chicago this week. I'll be in Seattle next week. I was in Los Angeles last week. That's getting to know our people
Right.
in addition to getting in front of clients and understanding what they need, as opposed to potentially what we're telling them.
Absolutely.
And I think we have the right formula. I think we're doing the right things. But I'm going to spend the next few weeks digging in deep and understanding what the market is looking for, what our clients need from us. And as I mentioned, the talent here is remarkable. It's also important for me to understand where we need to place that talent in order to be the most efficient and most effective in terms of how we go to market. So that'll be my focus over the next few months. And then, like any dynamic company or dynamic product, I'll figure out in real time too where we need to focus going forward to prioritize the continued growth, which has been really remarkable at Cognitiv over the past few years.
Absolutely. I've had a front row seat to it. I'm excited to get to work with you, to continue working with Cognitiv and continuing to see the growth.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to continuing working with you and working with our prospects and future clients.
Great. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.